Oh boy, 2020, what a year it was. I'm pretty sure that most of you are happy that finally this year is over. And I just really hope that in 2021 we are going to have a much better situation. With all the negative impacts that 2020 has brought upon us, I have to say that there were actually a few things that were not necessarily that bad. Over the course of the lockdown, we had quite a lot of time to spend alone at home, and many people were using it to learn something new or to develop new hobbies. So I took this time for myself and I started reading more about personal finance and, well, just made a shit ton of money. I started investing in a US stock exchange in March 2020. And after some initial losses, I actually quickly realized some gains, and it yielded me over 140% of returns in less than 1 year. This is insane. So why would you just keep your money in a bank account when you can gain so much? I also kept some of my money in cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum, which increased over 300 and 600% in value, respectively. So eventually, I decided to give it a try and start this YouTube channel and talk a bit about what I'm doing and, to give you some of the experiences that I have learned over the last year with the aim of, helping you grow and manage your own financial situation. So, well, here we are. My name is Dr. For Hugs and welcome to my first YouTube video ever. My journey started somewhere in spring when I saw a video on YouTube. It was an interview with Robert Kiyosaki, who's actually an American businessman and made fortunes about just teaching people on finance. And in his interview, he said,
"Well, I hate to tell you this, but the rich don't pay taxes."
Say what? So this was the moment when I realized, well, I actually don't really have any idea of how money works. So I went to the internet to figure out who this guy was, why does he know so much, and I found this. Apparently, this book is the #1 bestseller on personal finance of all times. So if you are somebody like I was approximately a year ago and you have absolutely no idea on money and personal finance, I can really recommend just to get this book and read it because it's very useful. Okay, let's be honest. The read quality is not something that you would expect, for example, from Harari. But it was successful in conveying some eye-opening messages by repeating them, well, over and over and over and over and over and over again. One thing, however, that I was missing from this book and in general about the information I can find on the internet is, some sort of a step-by-step guide on how to get started, how to just make more money. So eventually this was my motivation to start this video, to give you an introduction on where to get started. So here we go. I think one of the most important things, and the first step, is actually to understand that there is a possibility to invest, for example, in the stock market nowadays, basically for everybody. Back in the day, you had to have a broker, you had to pay this guy to make deals for you. And anyway, when you were buying a share of a company, you had to buy an entire share, which sometimes is kind of costly. Let's say you wanted to buy an Amazon stock. You would need to have over $3,000 in your pocket to do that. I have 10 zlotys. Is it not enough? Well, luckily, nowadays many platforms actually offer something that's called fractional shares. This means that even if you only have 10 zlotys or whatever currency on a small budget, you can still benefit from the productivity of the US market. Of course, without paying insane amounts for fees. In the recent years, many financial technology applications emerged, such as Webull, Robinhood, Revolut, Trade212, that provide you with the opportunity to invest in the US market. Robinhood and Webull in particular are actually pretty hot right now in the US. However, if you also live in Europe, like I do, unfortunately, these tools will not be available to be used here. At least for the purpose of putting your money in the stock market. Webull is actually quite useful as a tool for analytics, but more on that later. So as I have already used Revolut for their good exchange rates on currencies, I decided to stick with this app also for investing as anyway they offer one of the lowest fees. I'm planning to compare the different platforms in an upcoming video. In the meantime, I'm gonna drop the invitation link to Revolut in the description of this video below. If you don't have it yet, just download it, it's super useful. So once you understood that there is the opportunity to invest, then you have to make a decision that you start. And for this, I think it's very important that you understand first your own financial situation. And this is something that I understand that already not many people do. Should really take a closer look on what do you spend your money on, how much do you earn, how much can you save, and to make a budget for yourself. If this is something you haven't done yet, just please go to your online bank and check what did you spend your money in the last year and put it into categories. Many banks actually offer this feature by themselves. I personally, for example, really like to go out and have fun. And in 2020, well, I couldn't spend so much money on social events, yeah, which on one hand was obviously tragic, but on the other hand, it allowed me to save so much money that I could eventually use to invest. So just figure out what are the essential things, paying for your housing, your mortgage, your bills. Also the necessary amount that you have to spend on food, medication, and whatever other things that you just can't live without, and look for some of the expenses that you could potentially avoid. I personally have pledged to myself that every month I will save at least 20% of my salary and just put it into whatever sort of investment. For me, this is an amount that I would not be really concerned to lose. And with the potential of much higher gains, I'm just happy to take this risk. So before you get started, it is actually very important that you understand what is the kind of money that you would not miss if you would lose. Of course, you invest with the aim that you will make more money. However, to be completely frank, the stock market's been behaving like crazy last year, as everything in 2020. Nah. So eventually, if you do get started, be prepared for some ups and downs and just don't get scared by the price fluctuations and volatility, because chances are that in long term, it's gonna get better. Once you figure it out, what is the amount of money that you are able to risk, you will want to think about what you want to put your money into. And before we go further and I explain you my approach in this topic, I have to tell you that I'm not a licensed professional. Whatever I'm telling you here is just my own strategy, my own ideas, and it's only for entertainment purposes. There's three main areas where I invested in the last 1 year. First one is in technology stocks, in particular around renewable energy, electric vehicles, and financial technology. Most of these companies that I invested in are addressing the impacts of globalization and climate change, or let's call it on its proper name, climate catastrophe. And as these are all important issues for humanity, I believe that by having a diverse portfolio of these companies on the long term, I should not really be losing money in them. Because some of them will have to be successful and will have to create huge profits by delivering their products to the market. Otherwise, we're all gonna die and I will not need to worry about my money anyway. Some of the companies that made the best returns for me this year were Plug Power, NEO, SunPower, Tesla, and Jinkosolar. The second class of assets that I have chosen to my liking is something that already made so many people rich, and it is real estate. Even though I'm a Hungarian expat in Poland, currently living in the lovely city of Wrocław, I have decided to buy my own apartment regardless of not knowing how long I'm really going to stay here. With the interest rates being so low right now, I'm actually paying less money on a monthly basis for my mortgage than I would be paying for a landlord. Not only does it mean that I get to retain some money every month that I can eventually invest in the stock market, the money I'm paying to the bank is essentially coming to my own pocket by turning into equity in my own apartment. And later on, if for whatever reason I would decide to move somewhere, I could still rent it out to somebody and they would be paying for my mortgage. And I can imagine what you're thinking right now. Buying an apartment is expensive, I have to put down payment on the table, it's quite a high percentage of the apartment, and where do you get the money for that? Well, the good news is that you don't necessarily need to buy an apartment to invest in real estate. There are companies in which you can invest that are called REITs. These companies own, operate, or finance real estate and just make profit out of that. So by you investing in them, you can essentially gain as exposure to how does it feel to be the owner of real estate, and in exchange they pay you hefty dividends. And on a side note, Many of these type of companies lost a lot of value during last year. They started to recover, but many of them are still trading under their book value. So I can see a huge potential for them, and I'll keep an eye on them. And just to give you a few names here as well, I personally invested in MFA and IVR, but I'm considering to buy more of other companies going forward. And last but not least, of course, crypto. By now you probably heard of Bitcoin, unless you live in a cave, as well as the crazy price fluctuations that this asset is going through. And a whole series of videos could be dedicated to this topic, so I'm not going to go that much in detail to it right now. Just to tell you about my strategy, I decided to keep 10% of my investments in cryptocurrencies, mainly in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Of course, super volatile asset class, and there's a chance that at one point in the future the value of it will just drop to zero. But then again, I'm very much willing to take these risks because I believe in this, and I believe that digital currencies is just the way forward for the future. By the way, I buy my crypto on Coinbase, which is actually one of the largest and safest crypto exchanges. And apparently they are preparing for an initial public offering on a US stock exchange. And now, the commercial. If you want to get started with crypto, I'm going to share a link down below in the description. Use that link and find your account with $100 on Coinbase. We will both get $10 worth of crypto, so win-win. But wait, it gets better. On the app called BlockFi, you can actually get interest on the crypto that you hold. So if you register there as well, and you transfer the $100 that you deposited on Coinbase to BlockFi, you get an additional $10, so it's totally $20, as well as earn around 6% interest per year just by holding your crypto, plus potentially earning by the price increase, or of course losing everything. So should you do it? Should you buy the shares of the same companies that I mentioned, buy the same crypto, invest in real estate, and you become rich? Well, of course, absolutely not. Don't just trust me or any source of information that you just find randomly on the internet. Do your research, read industry news, subscribe to the newsletter of the company, check who are your favorite company's founders, check their financial reports, educate yourself. And with all that information at your hand, I hope you will be able to make the right investment decisions that will establish your long-term wealth. That's what I wish for you. And once you see those numbers climbing up on your screen and the value of your investments increasing, you will need to figure out when to sell your stocks and how to realize profit and how to pay taxes for that. So here's the deal. Actually, a lot of these topics that I was just discussing right now are just super superficial. If I would like to discuss everything in one video, well, it would be just crazy long. So my actual plan with this channel is to create a series of shorter videos and to talk about every relevant aspect of this topic much more in detail. So if you made so far in this video without closing the window, then first of all, thank you very much. And if you enjoyed what you were watching and you think you would like to be the part of the journey, then I will be super happy if you would click and subscribe and obliterate the like button. Please let me know in the comments below what do you think about this video, and trust me, any input is welcome, be it positive or negative. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!